Hello and welcome back to the Deep Dive. I want to start today by asking you a question, and I want you to be totally honest with yourself. When you open up your streaming app, you see that big, colorful tile for the latest superhero project. Do you feel excitement, or do you feel kind of tired?
The dreaded fatigue. It's the elephant in the room, isn't it? We just can't seem to stop talking about it.
It really is. It's that feeling of, oh, I have to watch 6 hours of this just to understand the next movie.
Right.
It's starting to feel less like entertainment and more like homework. And looking at the data we have, it's not just a feeling. Post-Endgame, the MCU has been in a really strange place. Fans are sensing a lack of direction, a loss of that spark that used to be there.
It's a crisis of identity, really. For over a decade, that machine was built on momentum. Everything was leading to Thanos.
Right.
Now, it feels like we're just treading water, waiting for the next big bad, and frankly, drowning in content.
Exactly. We are drowning in content rather than watching stories. But, and this is why we're here today, the sources we've analyzed suggest that Marvel might actually be aware of this.
Hey, that's interesting.
In fact, they might be making a show specifically about this crisis, a show that looks in the mirror and critiques the very machine that made it.
It's a fascinating pivot. We're diving into the Wonder Man series today, and if you're rolling your eyes thinking, great, another C-list character getting a generic origin story, just stop right there.
Yeah, hold on.
The analysis we have describes this show as something else entirely. It's a biting, satirical meta-critique of the industry itself.
It's almost like a therapy session for the studio.
Yeah.
And the vibe, it's not the Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
No.
It's not Secret Invasion. The sources are comparing this tonally to, like, HBO's Barry or Atlanta.
Which is a huge tell. Surreal, dark, an adult dramedy that just happens to feature superpowers.
A massive shift.
So our mission today is to unpack how Wonder Man tries to deconstruct this Disney-fication of storytelling. We're going to look at how it moves away from empty spectacle and uses two Hollywood outcasts to tell a story about, sincere human connection.
Okay, so let's set the stage. We need to meet our protagonist, Simon Williams. Now, if you know the comics, Simon is a big deal. He's an Avenger, a powerhouse.
A very big deal. But in this show, the setup is completely different.
Totally.
In this version, Simon Williams is the definition of a struggling actor. And I don't just mean he's waiting for his big break. I mean he is fighting for scraps in L.A., but the key trait the sources highlight isn't his talent. It's his intensity. He treats a background role in a commercial like he's performing Hamlet.
I love that detail in the notes about his perfectionism being abrasive. There's this story where he gets a gig on American Horror Story.
Which is a massive show. Huge opportunity.
Huge. And he loses the job. Not because he's bad, but because he's obsessing over the subtext of the scene when the director just wants him to, stand on his mark and look scared.
He's acting too hard. He is obsessed with the craft to a fault. But the deep dive reveals why he's like this. It's not just ego.
No.
Simon is a Haitian-American man hiding a massive secret. He has ionic superpowers. He is physically vibrating with energy that can level a building, and he's terrified of it.
So acting isn't just a career choice for him, it's a survival mechanism.
Yeah.
He relates to the world through media because he can't handle direct emotion. If he gets too emotional, things might, literally explode.
Precisely. It's a shield. There's an anecdote in the source material that just perfectly encapsulates this tragedy.
Okay.
Simon is going through a brutal breakup in his real life. He's absolutely heartbroken. He goes into an audition where the scene requires him to cry to show deep pain.
You think, okay, perfect. Just tap into what you're actually feeling.
Right, just use the real tears. It's method acting 101.
Yeah.
But he can't. He is so blocked off from his own reality that he freezes. So instead of using his own pain, he starts acting out a scene from Pretty Woman.
Wait, Pretty Woman. The Julia Roberts movie.
Specifically the scene where she's saying goodbye to Richard Gere. He mimics Julia Roberts because he feels safer inside a movie script than he does inside his own body.
That is, wow. It's hilarious, but it's also incredibly sad. That sets the tone for the whole show perfectly. He's a guy who is literally vibrating with power, but is powerless to be himself.
And this leads to the central meta-hook of the series. Simon is auditioning for the lead role in a reboot of a cheesy 1980s sci-fi movie called Wonder Man.
Okay, so let me get this straight. The show is called Wonder Man, and the character is auditioning for a show within the show called Wonder Man.
Exactly. But here's the kicker. In the show's universe, the original Wonder Man was a terrible, campy B-movie from the 80s. But for Simon, it's sacred text. His late father used to take him to see it. It was their bonding ritual when Simon was bullied as a kid. So landing this role isn't about fame or money.
It's an emotional tether to his dad. It's his way of grieving.
But the industry doesn't care about his grief, right? The industry just wants a product.
And this is where that meta-critique really kicks in. The sources point out that Simon's struggle mirrors the MCU's current struggle. He's trying to find art and meaning in a system that only cares about content and IP.
It's the conflict between sincerity and the machine. Simon is worried about his character's motivation. The studio is worried about making the day and hitting the release date. It's a direct commentary on how the sausage gets made.
But Simon can't navigate that machine alone. And this brings us to the second protagonist, and honestly, this is the part of the research that surprised me the most. I did not expect this character to be the heart of the show.
Trevor Slattery.
The fake Mandarin from Iron Man 3. For those who need a refresher, this is the character who is hired to play a terrorist villain, only to be revealed as a clueless, drunken British actor named Trevor.
It was a huge controversy back in 2013.
A huge one.
And the show just leans right into that baggage. Trevor is now 13 years sober. He's reinvented himself as a sort of actor guru, giving advice to young talent. But he's still trapped. The world sees him as a joke, or worse, a terrorist. He can't escape the shadow of the Mandarin persona.
So you have Simon, who is hiding his superpowers to avoid being called a monster.
And Trevor, who was branded a monster for a role he played. They're like mirror images.
Two sides of the same coin.
They really are, and the sources compare their dynamic to Midnight Cowboy, specifically the relationship between Dustin Hoffman and Jon Voight.
That is an incredibly high bar for comparison. Midnight Cowboy is a gritty masterpiece about two drifters trying to survive.
But the parallel works in this context. They are two broken men in a city, Hollywood, that wants to chew them up and spit them out. Trevor becomes Simon's mentor.
Right.
He helps him navigate the politics, the auditions, the agents. But more importantly, Simon is the only person who treats Trevor like a serious artist.
There's a scene described in the notes where they meet at a screening of Midnight Cowboy in a cemetery, and that's the spark. It totally reframes the stakes of the show.
Exactly.
We aren't trying to save the multiverse from Kang or Thanos. The stakes are, can these two guys just survive Hollywood without losing their souls?
And surviving Hollywood isn't just a metaphor here. The environment in the show is actively hostile to people like Simon. Which brings us to a concept in the show called the Dorman Clause.
Yeah, let's dig into this.
This is probably the heaviest piece of world building in the sources, and we really need to unpack it.
When I first read Dorman Clause, I thought it was about union contracts, like who opens the door for the lead actor. But it's much darker.
It's an industry-wide ban on superpowered individuals working as actors.
It's a legal framework.
Right. If you have powers, you cannot join the Screen Actors Guild. You cannot work in front of a camera. It is illegal for you to be on screen.
Which explains why Simon is so paranoid about his ionic energy. If he slips up once, if his eyes glow for a second, his career is just over. He's blacklisted.
But look at the symbolism there. The sources are very clear that this is a historical allegory. It mirrors, the Hays Code or the McCarthy-era blacklists where people were banned from Hollywood for their political beliefs.
Or even the way LGBTQ plus actors had to stay in the closet for decades to maintain a career. You have to hide who you are to sell the fantasy.
Exactly. It's about marginalization. And the show explores the consequences of this through a character named Damar Davis who goes by the superhero named Dorman.
Oh, the story of Damar Davis it's just heartbreaking. He's a mutant. He can physically turn his body into a living portal.
He starts as a bouncer, naturally, but then Hollywood finds him. They turn him into a meme. He becomes a superstar because of his gimmick.
Right.
He even stars in a buddy comedy with Josh Gad called Cash Grab.
Cash Grab. I mean, the satire isn't exactly subtle, is it? It's right there in the title.
It's not meant to be subtle. It's meant to be a sledgehammer. It's showing how the industry fetishizes difference when it's profitable. They put Damar on lunchboxes. They sell his image.
Until it's not convenient.
The moment there's an accident, something outside his control involving his powers, he's dropped. Instantly.
He goes from icon to liability overnight.
And that is the lesson Simon is learning while watching Damar's life fall apart. If you reveal what you truly are, you become a commodity, an asset to be squeezed until you break, and then you are replaced.
You aren't a person anymore. You are intellectual property.
That's it.
And that fear, It drives Simon's perfectionism. He thinks, if I'm just the perfect actor, if I never mess up, I can escape this. But there's a force in the show ensuring he can't fly under the radar. We need to talk about the antagonists. It's not a guy with a magic cape.
No, it's the Department of Damage Control. We've seen them in Ms. Marvel and Spider-Man, but here they are fully realized as the bureaucracy of villainy.
I love that phrasing. They aren't cackling supervillains in a volcano. They're corporate HR with tactical gear and drone strikes.
It's the banality of evil. The antagonist, Agent Cleary, he represents the prison industrial complex. There's a chilling line in the notes where Cleary basically admits he doesn't care who acts out or why. He says, a body is a body.
A body is a body. That's cold.
He needs arrests to justify his department's budget. It's all about quotas. If he doesn't catch enough enhanced individuals, his funding gets cut. And if we zoom out to the meta commentary, damage control is the studio system.
Oh, absolutely. A machine that just repeats the same formulas to hit quarterly targets, totally devoid of passion. They don't care about the individual story. They care about feeding the beast. They need bodies to fill the release schedule.
And this creates the central tragedy of the series. Because Trevor Simon's best friend, his mentor, is caught in this web.
This is the twist that just hurts. Trevor isn't just a quirky sidekick or a funny roommate.
Right.
He's a spy.
He was coerced, damage control caught him, and to maintain his freedom, he has to spy on Simon. He has to feed Simon to the wolves.
That adds such a layer of complexity. It's not just good guy versus bad guy. It's two desperate people trying to survive a system that pits them against each other. Trevor loves Simon. He believes in him.
But he's terrified of going back to prison. Which leads us to the climax. And this is where the show really, really rejects the Marvel formula.
Okay.
We're used to the third act where the sky opens up, a blue beam shoots down, and the CGI armies clash in a gray wasteland.
The sky beam ending. We've seen it a dozen times. It's standard operating procedure.
Wonderman just refuses to do that. When Simon finds out about Trevor's betrayal, the emotional devastation is what triggers his powers. He explodes. Literally, his ionic energy flares up, destroys the set of the Wonder Man reboot, and just destroys his career. He is exposed.
So the worst case scenario has happened. The secret is out. But instead of a fist fight to resolve it, we get a sacrifice.
Trevor sees the destruction. He sees that he has ruined the life of the only person who treated him like an artist. So he makes a choice. He goes back to the one thing he hates. He becomes the Mandarin.
It puts the mask back on.
He releases a video claiming responsibility for the destruction. He uses his reputation as a monster and a terrorist to take the fall for Simon. He lies to the world to save his friend.
That is surprisingly moving. It's a callback to Iron Man 3, but it recontextualizes it completely. He's using his acting craft, the very lie that ruined his life, to perform a heroic act of love.
It's redemption through art. He saves his friend by becoming the villain the world expects him to be.
And this triggers Simon's final transformation. And I love this part. He doesn't become a hero because he put on a spandex suit or got a code name.
No.
He becomes a hero because he stops acting and starts being real.
The source calls it going method. Simon breaks into the Supermax prison to rescue Trevor. He finally embraces his powers, his heritage, and his friendship. He stops hiding.
He becomes Wonder Man, not for a movie role or a lunchbox deal, but to save his friend. It all comes back to that word, sincerity.
Sincerity over spectacle. That's the whole thesis of the show.
So zooming out, let's talk about the impact of this. Why does this show matter? Why should you, the listener, care about a show focused on a B-list Avenger and a washed-up actor?
Because it argues that normal is the new avant-garde. We have been so inundated with gods, aliens, multiverses, and time travel. Watching a guy try to pay rent, deal with his mom, and help his friend get sober, that feels revolutionary in this context.
That's a strong point. The source mentions that method acting becomes a metaphor for the franchise itself. The show is basically arguing that superhero media needs to stop acting like blockbusters.
Just ticking boxes, hitting beats.
And start telling human stories again.
There's also the point about star power. Think about the early MCU. Chris Hemsworth, Tom Hiddleston, Chris Evans. They weren't global superstars until Thor and Captain America. The brand built the stars.
Right. But recently, it feels like they're just relying on nostalgia. Hey, look, it's Tobey Maguire. Hey, look, it's Hugh Jackman. It's all looking backward.
Wonderman argues for letting new talent shine on their own terms. It's a plea for the MCU to return to its roots. Remember the original Iron Man?
Sure.
It wasn't a sure thing. It was a risky character study of a broken man trying to fix his mistakes.
And Wonderman feels like a spiritual successor to that energy. It's messy, it's human, and it's about redemption. It's about two guys finding a way to matter in a world that says they don't.
It holds a mirror up to nature, to quote Hamlet. The show ultimately proves that the real you isn't your superpower or your condition or your job title. It's your shared experiences. It's your connections.
I want to leave you with a thought today. If the MCU is willing to critique its own Disney-fication so openly in this show, calling out the quotas, the soulless sequels, the exploitation of the Dorman Clause, does that mean they are actually ready to change?
That is the multi-billion-dollar question, isn't it?
It is. Or is this self-awareness just another form of content? Is metacritique just the new genre they're selling us to keep us subscribed?
Yeah.
Are we just buying our own cynicism back from them?
It's a fine line between introspection and, performative awareness. But if wonderment is the result, if the story is this good and this human, maybe it doesn't matter. It's a step in the right direction.
A fascinating look at the potential future of the franchise. It's definitely one to watch. Stay curious, everyone, and keep digging. We'll see you on the next Deep Dive.